National Signing Day, Wednesday, February the 7th, first Wednesday of February. It's always National Signing Day, but Michigan got all their work done early. We've got some work to do. Former Wolverine Jim Scarcelli's on the line, and he's got his video working, and like he's got some new shirts and a hat and everything else. He's ready to roll. What's up, Scar?
Yeah, you see the national championship, national champion
I do see that. Nice.
I'm not a big vest guy, but I couldn't turn it down. Danny, national champs, Michigan. Danny, I'm fired up. I'm optimistic. I'm feeling good about things. People, I hear a lot of doom and gloom out there. I take a peek and read some stuff, and there's no reason to start panicking and feel about anything. Okay, there's a lot of good things going on. A lot of good things. Okay, Sherrone Moore, he has a better job than he had last year. Grant Newsome has a better job than he had last year. Kirk Campbell has a better job. Minter wants to be a pro coach. It's probably a better situation for him to go and do that. Mike Elston, I think he has goals to maybe be a head coach in college or pro. This is something he felt he had to do. Doug Mallory, an analyst at Michigan. He's now a defensive back coach for the Ravens. He has a better job. The strength coach at Michigan, Tress is his name, right? He's now the main guy at Michigan. And then obviously Ben Herbert's gone. There's a lot of other guys I don't even know about. But Denny, listen, leadership, the leader's job. I learned this a long time ago. One of the biggest things you got to do is you got to promote your people. When they come work for Fithian or Scarcelli or Harbaugh or Moore, they got to know that guy, you work for that guy, he's going to take you places. He's going to help you get bigger, better jobs. So those things are happening. No one's going to stay at Michigan for 20, the days of the Jerry Hanlon, God bless Jerry Hanlon, and Terrell Burton, great coaches at Michigan. They did 20 years. I don't think those you're going to see that much anymore. So let me just keep going on that. And man, this is Michigan. We reload. We lose players. We lose coaches. And one of the most important strengths that Sherrone Moore has to have is a strong Rolodex and a network to be ready to go and always have plan B when coaches leave. So I am optimistic. Guys leave, nothing to panic about.
Okay, Scar coming out of the gates, firing, man. He's ready, getting ready to. It was like you did in the Blue Bonnet Bowl. You got a sack on the first play, right, Scar? Or was that against what? Right in the last bowl game, a sack on the first play?
Well, I had maybe the Holiday Bowl. I had a couple plays there back in the day.
Okay, all right. Well, you're coming out of the gate strong. There is, you alluded to it, there's some people that are fired up. And is there a reason, do you get why people could be ticked at departed Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh? We'll see. Scar's talked about it a little bit there. We'll get some more feelings on that. But we are talking about the staff. And, there's going to be people that are upset. I think people are upset. I think that when they talked about continuity, that people felt like, and I don't know, I don't know who people read or listen to. Maybe there were some people out there that suggested yeah, Jim Harbaugh is going to go to the pros, and then Sherrone Moore will just take over as head coach, and then he's just got to slide another coach in there to take his spot, and everything will be all set, and Michigan will continue on. They won't lose any players. They won't lose any coaches, and they'll be ready to roll. And I don't know, the part that people are freaking out, Scar, that I see is that they're like, well, what about continuity? Maybe they should have gone out and had some kind of national search. And national search, I mean, what kind of coaches? Like, if they would have gone that direction, you would have been taking the Michigan coaches right now, and I can guarantee you that 90% of them would have been gone, and there would have been a host of players that have hit the transfer portal automatically. Now, some of that still might happen, and we know that the coaches are gone, but I don't follow that line. Like, people are upset, which I get. You can be upset if you want, but the part about they should have gone after somebody else, like who were they going after? I want some names, any name.
I'm totally good with the decision of the leader we have in place. Totally good with that. people have to understand, Lou Holtz always said he never wanted to hire guys that didn't have goals to want to be head coaches. Yeah, I kind of disagree with that. I had some really good guys work for me that were fine being coordinators or whatever their role was. But listen, all those guys that are leaving, they aren't mandated to stay at Michigan for 10, 15, 20 years. No one has a gun to their head. They all have big goals. Everybody does. This isn't like, Jim Harbaugh, told, hey guys, like there's some little kid, grab your toys. We're going to grandma's house. No, man, they're men and they have goals. They have career goals. And every one of their decisions, is thought out what's best for their future, what's best for their career, to get to where they eventually want to be and possibly change a senior. But there could be a part of it. They really, really like working for Jim. That could be a part of it, and that's, but I'm not panicking because the names I'm hearing, what I'm seeing Sherrone doing on offense, I like the tight end coach, Denny. I heard nothing but good things about this guy, Casulo. He was, I know people that with Ferris State backgrounds, and they said he was a highly respected coach. He was at Michigan a little bit. He was a smart guy. I like when I hear smart. I like when I hear, good recruiter. And so that's what I heard about him. And then we got Big Grant in there. And so there's a lot of good things happening.
Smart guy, Jim Scarcelli. Want to tell everybody that you can get on the Maize and Blue Review right now for free until spring. Use the promo code NatChamps24. Go to michigan.rivals.com, michigan.rivals.com. Use that promo code NatChamps24. Let's walk through some of the potential names that would be out there. There was a CBS NFL Insider a couple days ago mentioning the Chiefs defensive line coach, Joe Cullen. He's up for some DC jobs in the NFL, but his name also, he mentions for Michigan. Let's start with Joe Cullen. Scar, you see a little bit. I put some of his highlights up there. Chiefs defensive line. He was defensive coordinator with the Jags. The Raven connection for 5 years from 2016 to 2020. A lot of people will light up when they see that. Not so much lighting up when you see the 3 years with the Lions there, which was a long time ago, but was a complete embarrassment. But let's start with Cullen and what you might think about if the 56-year-old, he's in Super Bowl week. Well, maybe know a little bit more Sunday night, certainly Monday after the Super Bowl. But what about Joe Cullen?
Danny, I talked to some of my buddies, and they're like, you got to have a guy with college. He's recent in college. Can Cullen recruit? Hey, man, where did Minter come from? Minter came from the Ravens. Where did McDonald come from? He was a pro guy with the Ravens, and that totally changed our program, those two guys. So let me just say this. If I was a young guy and I wanted to be a professional defensive football coach, I would work for nothing to work on John Harbaugh's staff because that's where everybody's going. Denny, he's got all four of his top guys on defense. One, the coordinator is now the head coach with the Seahawks, and all three of the other ones, the linebackers, secondary D-line coach, all three of them got coordinator jobs. So that's where everybody wants to go because they play great defense. So let's look at this guy. He's been around and he's worked with a lot of good people. We remember the things that happened in Detroit, but Urban Meyer had faith in this guy. He made him his coordinator. So Urban Meyer's not an idiot. He did some dumb. It didn't work out with the Jags, but he understands good coaching. So if Sherrone Moore hires Joe Cullen, I'm on board. Okay, he's got a lot of experience. And Sherrone has to think through all those little things that happened in his past that I don't want to drag the guy up. He made a couple mistakes, but I like that. And he's in the system, man. And this is what keeps me fired up. From what I've heard from Sherrone Moore ain't changing nothing. He believes in the defensive system. And I firmly believe, I've heard this talk that Jim and Minter want Sherrone Moore to succeed, in my opinion, big time. And they're talking about these guys that understand the system that we've been doing the last 3 years. They want to put a guy in that has the same belief systems. We're going to have a base defense, a 3-4 at times. We'll have a nickel pack. It'll all be the same stuff. It's same terminology. The kids ain't going to have to learn nothing. So I like that as an option, Denny. I would be on board. Scar, if Sherrone Moore hires this guy, I'm on board. Let's go. He's been around.
Yeah, I'm not on board. I would want the Wolverines to not bring in Joe Cullen. I do not think that he is a college coach. I don't think he's a fit at Michigan. I think he's a bad culture fit. I also think that the reason that he's in the pros and he's not as in college is you go back to the 2 alcohol incidents that he had. And people in the pros understand, get that second and third chance. And even though you understand that in college football fans, they're great fans, but they're also a bunch of loathsome jerks. And they will drag him through the mud and pour salt in that wound at every chance and every turn that you get. That's what college football fans do. They mask that as rivalry and fun and just joking around. But for me, I would leave Cullen in the pros and I wouldn't touch him, but I think there's people that agree with you.
I understand that. I'm a little more of a forgiveness kind of guy. He admitted I listened to him. Trust me, I know his history. I listened to him with his alcohol issues, and I'm a little more from the forgiveness side of things. And I'm not going to.
Scar. I'm from a glass half full and second and third chance type person as well. Now, he's not out on the street with a cup in his hand. Like, he's going to get a job in the pros. I'm just saying he's not a fit for Michigan the way I look at it. That's me. Wink Martindale. There's some pluses and minuses here. This would be, to me, not the greatest, but I could understand if it's really about this Ravens system. This is the architect. And if you can't find anybody else, sometimes a second and third chance, you give a guy an opportunity. Wink Martindale, 60 years old. I don't know what was happening. The Giants sucked all around, but, he didn't have a good time there in his 2 years in New York. A lot of time with the Ravens there when you look from 2018 to 2021, and he's credited with this system and getting it up and going. So that's the thing that's really on his side. He hasn't been in the college game in 20 years since he was at Western Kentucky. How about Wink Martindale? If he can?
Love it, Denny. Love it. You want to talk about a Harbaugh bloodline? Harbaugh, this guy goes back to Jack Harbaugh. He coached with Jack Harbaugh. I remember Wink at the Michigan camp 20 years ago. I remember when he was a young guy there. He goes way back with John Harbaugh. He's the architect of what they do on defense, of what Michigan does and what the Ravens does. For whatever reason, John wanted to move on from him a couple years back from him being his coordinator. He's a smart guy, man. He understands it. I'd be fired up if this guy was in the mix. You got to, if he's talking to kids and he's coached pro football and the kind of people he's coached, he'd be able to recruit. Okay, maybe he's an old guy. I get it. People, is he too old to go out and recruit? But if he talks to kids and they see what this guy's done, where he's been, so Cullen and Martindale, Scar's on board. Okay, I like them. They're smart guys. They've been coordinators. They're in the system. They believe in the system. So just get the right assistants hired underneath him. So I'd be all fired up for him, man. Okay. Sherrone Moore believes in him. Scar believes in him.
All right. Sterling Lucas is a defensive end, outside linebacker, edge coach at South Carolina currently. If you look over his bio, a Jags assistant D-line, and then he was with the Ravens for 5 years, and he was there with Cullen. The idea that maybe Joe Cullen and then Sterling Lucas could be coming in. I don't know if you want to call him a package deal, but people are looking at that, and they like that. Little extension of that Ravens defense.
Denny, hang on, I'm gonna cut you off. You heard that these two, he would be a package deal with Cullen?
I don't want to say I heard that. I would say that there's people that are saying that, like people just like how you say who's who. It's kind of just like an online thing because
I got you.
He did work with Cullen, so I think people are just connecting the dots there.
Yeah.
I don't have
I got you.
a source with Joe Cullen, or it wasn't a Trevor McHugh or something saying like this to me. This is just an internet connecting the dot type deal. But
yeah, I
people
don't
seem
know much about him. I haven't studied this, but I see 4 years with the Ravens. Again, it gets back to the system and understanding the system, and it's a good name for me. As far as I'm concerned, that's what I want. I want our players when we get ready for spring football, because we got a great defense coming back. I don't want to hear any excuses about our defense. Okay, we got great players coming back. We're solid everywhere. Okay, we just need the right guys to lead them, plug some assistants in, get the right leader. Look, man, Denny, I was at Michigan when we went from Bill McCartney my freshman year to Gary Moeller the next year and won a Big Ten championship, had a great defense with Gary Moeller. So we didn't miss a beat. I ain't worried about missing a beat if we bring the right guy in. I seen it. I lived it. So that's what Sherrone has to do. He's got to get the right guy, the right system. It's a hell of a lot easier for that coach to make sure his terminology is on the, just his terminology. So our players don't have to learn one different word about terminology, about what we call coverages and adjustments. So you showed me 3 names that I could buy in on if Sherrone Moore believes those are the guys. Because he's right with me on the same belief system of what we do with the system.
About Ozzie, Ryan Osborn. He was at Michigan for a few years as an analyst and then went to the Ravens as a defensive assistant. Right now he's with Biff Poggi in Charlotte as his linebackers and defensive line coach. A lot of people think that Ozzie would be a nice addition, not for defensive coordinator, but maybe like Mike Elston, the departed D-line coach who went to the Chargers. A lot of people thinking Osborn could come on in. You see the Poggi, Ravens, Michigan. You could see why people would attach Osborn's name to U of M.
Sherrone would know. See, that's the thing, Denny. Coaches know when you're a player, you know the strengths and weaknesses of everybody you play with on a football team. You know the strengths and weaknesses of all your players. When you're coaching, you know all the strengths and weaknesses of your coaches. I don't know. Sherrone Moore coached with this guy, and same with all them other guys. So this guy here, he doesn't have a long history, but he worked with, he was a coordinator at Charlotte this past year with Biff. He was at Michigan. So Sherrone would have saw how this guy interacts with recruits, with people. He would have saw how he motivates players. I don't know the answer to those questions, but these are all names that, he knows. He has somebody giving references on them. So I can understand the argument for all 4 names. I can understand it. Can this guy lead? Can he make those quick split-second decisions? Because this is the most important decision Sherrone Moore has to make. And Denny, I would also say I am in no hurry at all for Sherrone Moore to make that decision. I don't care if he's got to wait another month. I don't care. I want him to get the best guy. I want him to get the guy that when Ryan Day looks across the field from him, he ain't happy. Okay, I want John Smith from Michigan State, when he sees that guy he's matched up against, the defensive coordinator, that he ain't happy to see him. Okay, that's what I want. I don't want some guy that they're licking their chops. Okay, so let's just have faith, Denny, in the big fella, that he's going to get the right guy. No, but Denny, let me just finish up this. I would really like to know, and I don't know if we'll ever get the answer, why the heck not was Mike Elston offered the coordinator job? Was Clinksdale offered the coordinator job? Was Doug Mallory offered to be a position coach at Michigan? He obviously took the job from analyst to position coach with the Ravens. I just would really like to know, was Mike Elston offered the coordinator job? Has Clinksdale been offered the coordinator job? And I don't know the answer to that question, because that's the easiest transition right there.
Yeah, well, Klink was the co-defensive coordinator, so it seemed pretty natural to think that he was going to be the the defensive coordinator and get that promotion at Michigan. But you talk about a first time head coach, you get a first time offensive coordinator. Although you do have Campbell that did spend 2 years at Old Dominion, so you could say no, he's not a first timer, and like okay, but Klink would be a first timer, so would Elston. So maybe you're looking for some more experience there. I'm just speculating on that, and we don't know for sure if Klink has gone to the Chargers or not. There's people that are thinking that. Let's put some of the questions out there, Scar, and see if you. This was one that I wanted you to answer. Why not the guys that are on the staff instead of going outside?
That's $1 million question, Danny. Again, when I was there, we went from Jim Young to Gary Moeller to Bill McCartney, back to Gary Moeller to Lloyd Carr to Jim Herman. Everybody was on staff. I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know. It just seems like it would make everything a hell of a lot easier for the kids. We'd have a solid guy there. Who knows what the hell is going on? With that relationship. Does somebody lack faith somewhere in somebody? I don't know. Doesn't make sense, man. Because that's a hell of a lot easier deal. Just say, all right, Klink, let's go. We know the system. The kids are fired up. You're the guy. Let's get you a D-line coach. Let's get you a linebacker coach. We got to get it. I mean, we got some coaches to hire on defense.
How about, with it being National Signing Day, Ferris looking at some of the numbers, and he's asking about Ohio State getting 2 top 7 QBs, both rated higher than Jaden Davis. Maybe we can get the leftovers of the one that will transfer in a year. Ohio State has had the best offseason of any college football team. When you look at the transfer portal, when you look at the recruiting rankings, they've hit the jackpot on both sides. What about OSU? They always seem like they have a lot of success in recruiting, but losing to Michigan these past 3 years, I mean, they are cranking it up, and they have their fans have to like what they see in the offseason. Doesn't mean you're going to win on the field, but what about Ohio State?
Yeah, listen, man, they air it out a lot more than we do. If you're a quarterback and you want to throw the ball, you look at Ryan Day's history, and you go on a recruiting trip to Ohio State. You got Fields in the NFL starting. You got Stroud starting. So we don't have a guy in there starting. And so it's not like it was, 20 years ago with Brady and Greasy and all them guys. We had back to back, and all of our guys and Henny. You could come to Michigan, and it helped your recruiting. Okay, so they've got that going now. They throw it more, and it is what it is. And hopefully, Jaden Davis is better than those guys. I don't know the answer to that, but Danny, let me just say this. That's the answer to that question. Let's just talk about the strength coach situation. That's something that I thought about that's actually good.
All right.
Okay, Ben Herbert left. He's the job. I think the job is going to be different than just strength coach. I think Jim has different things that he's going to do there for him. But we have our guy who was with the program, and I have a lot of faith in this kid. But a strength coach has like 5 or 6 assistants. Those guys ain't going nowhere, Danny. They ain't going all the way out to California, and they don't make a ton of money. So that's one good thing about keeping our strength coach within, because he's got about 5 or 6 guys that work with him, and they ain't going nowhere. So that's one thing I'm fired up about. And let's talk about Mike Elston, how people are all, Jim's taking these guys.
All right, let's do that.
Mike Elston was a grad assistant at Michigan. I remember Mike way back working the camp 20-some years ago when he first started out. Okay, he latched on to Brian Kelly for 3 different stops. Central Michigan, they won. They got a better job at Cincinnati. He won. They got a better job at Notre Dame. He was with Brian Kelly for a long time. Okay, and he was just a recruiting guy, D-line coach. Brian Kelly gets the job at LSU. Mike Elston didn't go with him to LSU. Why not? Nobody asked that question. He stayed at Notre Dame. And then why did he leave Notre Dame after 1 year and come work with Jim Harbaugh? so, people, you think that you're supposed to stay with a guy forever. People have their reasons why. Well, maybe I didn't want to go down to LSU, or maybe I think it was time. Maybe I want to work with Jim Harbaugh, and I want to get out of Notre Dame. I don't want to work over here for whatever. I don't know if that's, but he left. He left Notre Dame to come to Michigan. So, people aren't obligated to stay at one place, forever. So
no, I do. And I'm going to side with you, Scar, and I'll give you my points on all of it too. But I think that there are Michigan fans who take the Michigan versus everybody, literally. And, Jim Harbaugh is now not Michigan. And so, it's Michigan versus Jim Harbaugh. And for Jim Harbaugh then to take any Michigan's assistance, they're mad at Jim Harbaugh. And I can see that. Now, I don't agree with that. Like, Jim Harbaugh has gone to the pros and he's now trying to win, and he wants the best coaches. And if he thinks the best coaches are the ones that he just coached with, to me, I understand why he would try to bring Ben Herbert and others that he likes and bring them to the pros. That to me, it's obvious. It's football. It's business. You're talking about the natural progression. I understand all of that. For the assistants, as you're talking about, how many coaches have an opportunity to win a national championship and then win a Super Bowl in a short window? That's what they're going for. And sure enough, Michigan last year, it's why they attracted so many players to the transfer portal, because people looked at this team with McCarthy and this defense and the players that were returning and said, Michigan's got as good a chance as anybody to win a national championship. And they got a lot of players. If you're a coach, are you looking at Michigan and saying, hey, where can I have the most success immediately? Tying yourself to Jim Harbaugh, who could be. Now, we can all get into rankings and everything else, Scar, but he just won the national championship. He might be one of the greatest coaches ever. And if he goes out there in a year or two or even 3 and wins a Super Bowl and has both of that, he's going to be talked about as one of the greatest coaches ever. You know what happens when, you're the greatest coaches ever and you're going to the playoffs and you're winning a Super Bowl, then, you're on a fast track yourself. So if you're a coach and saying, hey, am I going to cast my lot at Michigan? Not a bad choice with Sherrone Moore and what's going on now. Or do I follow Jim Harbaugh? I can see how an assistant coach would say, I'm going to cast my lot with Jim
Danny,
Harbaugh.
look at Saban, how all them guys that got fired from wherever would come and work for him for $50,000 to be an analyst. They wanted to have that on their resume. We all do it. We all, we're going to work at a certain place under a certain guy. It helps our resume. So I'm not knocking anybody in any profession that, they got to pad their resume with things on there that help their cause. So, and I'm going to quote the great John Falk, the old equipment manager at Michigan. Denny, when I was playing, players were leaving all the time, and you would see Falk clearing out their locker. You guys would leave in the middle of the night. It was tough. It was demanding, and Falk used to always quote the line from The Natural: "They come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go." This is Michigan, man. Guys come and they go. And if they're going for better jobs, an assistant coach to coordinator to head coach. Mike McDonald is now the head coach at Seattle Seahawks, and he was at Michigan 3 years ago. So Sherrone is going to have to win and build that, and he will. That's what we're all having faith in, man, that he's going to build the same kind of thing where people say, I want to work for Sherrone Moore. Because he's putting guys in the NFL. I want to go play for him. He's putting guys in the NFL. I want to coach for him because guys that work for him for a couple of years, they go out and get better jobs. So they come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go.
To recap, the coaches, might want to go with Jim Harbaugh to go to LA, to go to the pros, and to get a chance at winning a Super Bowl. I'm not mad at him for that. Jim Harbaugh, I've seen it's been some rivals, but it's even been some, I guess, Michigan fans that have said that they're upset with Jim Harbaugh. Why can't he go out there and get other coaches? I thought he would have a deeper pool of coaches and leave Michigan's alone if he loves Michigan so much. I don't know. There could be
that's
a little
not
bit
loyal to those, Danny. That's not the, is that fair to those assistants?
I don't, sure, if that's a point too. Like people just want everything great for Michigan.
You're supposed to just say, you know what, man, you're supposed to be at Michigan forever. No, man, you're Sherrone Moore's obligation. Okay, he's going to want to win, but he's selling. When you're selling Michigan to those players, you're selling great education, great football. But we're getting you to the NFL is one of the things he's selling. When he brings assistant coaches in, that's one of the things he's selling too. Is look, man, you work as an assistant here. You're gonna, you could be a Biff Poggi, you could be a Mike McDonald, you could be a mentor who's now getting himself in line to be a head coach if the things he's done. So that's the things you're selling, and you can't force a guy to stay there forever.
Well, and also it's just every situation is different. But how about this one? I mean, a guy that played at Michigan and came back and had the success and is going out on top and winning a championship and going to the pros. And like, there's coaches that go to the pros from college, but are they legends? And, did they win a championship? So they take their staff. That's a lot of what happens when you have a successful coach and he goes to another program. He usually brings in tow with him. But then there's the people that say, well, why did Michigan, they preach continuity? And I think this needs to be emphasized to folks. Like, if Michigan would have gone out there and had a national, so let's just go through some of this. Let's just say PJ Fleck. Now, PJ Fleck's star has fallen. I think he's a fine coach. I would have called him to interview him if Michigan was going to go outside the program. But what do you think the coaching staff would look like if PJ Fleck took over?
That's the thing that bothers me. I'm going to say this. That's one of the things that I respect with the new Michigan State coach. This guy brought in a lot of his guys. That's the problem with a lot of these. What happens in college football is a guy will win in the MAC. He'll win at that level, and then he gets a job at a bigger school, and he brings only 2 or 3 guys. And those guys that helped him win, they're out of work sometimes for being successful. So there's no guarantee. Some of these names you have on here, Kleiman, Drinkwitz, they would have brought their guys. They would have had to have been loyal to their guys.
True, and there's no saying, do you have a better chance? Michigan still might lose players. We don't know that. The transfer portal window is still open for them, that 30-day window. Teams that are looking like they could win a national championship are also offering money to some of these Michigan players. These guys could just be like, boom, I'm out of here. I'm going to go try to win another title, and I'm going to pick up 6 figures. That could happen, but if you're bringing in somebody like Fleck, Brian Kelly, Colin Cowherd, said this is the kind of guy you want to bring in. Michigan fans don't like Brian Kelly. They think Brian Kelly's a cheat. They think he's a phony. But if he would have come to Michigan, it would have signaled that Michigan is playing pay for play, that they're ready to be like everyone else when it comes down to going after recruits. So a lot of people would have relished that situation. But so maybe that's the guy you're saying, like, hey, this would have meant that Michigan is now they are transactional. It's no longer transformational. So, if Brian Kelly was your guy, but Lance Leipold from Kansas, Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, who was at North Dakota and won some championships, Drinkwitz, who has had some success at the lower levels in there, that Missouri. I don't think any of these guys have a better chance than Sherrone Moore, even though they are already having success, because of what Moore, the players that he'll be able to keep in the short term, and then I think long term, Moore deserved it. I wouldn't have gone outside for any of those, and people are automatically they're mad because some coaches, but they're acting like if they would have brought somebody else in, that would have been a better situation, and that's the part that I don't connect with people online with, and I don't know. Maybe there's some, the expert.
Listen,
they should have opened this up.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
No, I'm good with our decision. And normally, if you look at the 40-year run when we went from Schembechler, Moeller, Carr, the coach retired, or in Coach Moeller's case, that's a whole different. But the guy just left. He didn't go take another job. Jim took another job, so a lot of those guys left with them, though. But anyway, Danny, let me just say this about some other things that I saw. That local recruiting is going to be big to see how there's some local recruits that I'm watching. That's going to tell me a lot about where we're at with Sherrone Moore and our staff. And I also want to say this, because I've heard people concerned about the offense. I told you the defense is going to be outstanding, and it should be. Concerned about my freshman year, we had a bunch of All-Americans. We finished 9-3, and they were just right through that line. We lost all these great players, and that's what they're saying about this team now. We're losing Zinner. We're losing all these guys. You know what, man? We came back the next year and won a Big Ten championship with dudes that nobody knew how good they were as backups. So when you want to talk about the players we're losing from that offense, I'm not sweating it, man. I've seen it before. Let's just get the quarterback right now. If they got faith that what we got is good, I still think they're going to bring someone in, but I ain't worried at all about our offense. And I know there's a lot of names out there that we lost, but man, we're Michigan, and there's good players there because I seen it as a player with all them great players from that team when I was a freshman, and we ended up 9-3, 9-2, or 8-3, whatever it was, and then my next year, with all these replacements on offense, we win the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, there's mostly good. It's almost all good when I hear, especially former players, but anybody say, "Hey, we're Michigan," there's a point to that. Michigan's got everything going. If we do get to the spot where they might not have something going, it's where my biggest fear and worry comes in, and it's where Michigan right now is positioned with NIL. And will some of these players take money and leave? Does Michigan have a pool of money with a collective that somebody's sitting out there and ready to counter any move if some team is ready to go after them? And NIL worked great for Michigan last year as one of the reasons they won the national championship. But as they sit right now, I don't want to say there's drastic changes, but how to connect the dots to be able to get top recruits or to be able to show players in the transfer portal, because right now it doesn't look like Michigan, they look like they're winning a national championship, so they might not be jumping in as much as they were last year. It's a big deal. And people are criticizing Ward Manuel. And
Why? Denny, let me ask you, what makes you think we've been successful the last 3 years with the philosophy of offense, defense, special teams, weight room, recruiting, transfers, NIL? Sherrone Moore ain't going to change none of that. Why the hell would you think that there's reason to panic that, our NIL approach is drastically going to change now? Okay, yeah, I see Ohio State, they're anteing up, maybe a little bigger now, a little more than they had. We slapped them around 3 years in a row. But why would we panic? I don't think this guy's going to change nothing. And I don't think our resources to him are going to change.
Panic's not a good word, but the change that has to happen, they can't continue to do what they did the last 2 or 3 years. The game has changed. Like, there's no Blake Corum and JJ McCarthy coming to Michigan now. That was pre-NIL. To bank on being able to get even the top 4 stars by doing it with transformational talk and doing
Danny,
it.
How do you know how much those kids are? How do we know the answer? Do you know the answer to what, a kid like Will Johnson? Do you know the answer to that question? Did he get more than a scholarship coming out of high school? Do you know the answer to that question?
He had some things set up pretty well for him as a local kid. I saw, like, he was right in downtown. He was entering into his own brand right away. So whatever they had lined up, I don't like behind the scenes. There is a point to it. I think some people are like thinking like Michigan's getting, passed up, but it does have to change. And it might change where the attorney generals and the antitrust or the rules go to the university where they're allowed to pay the money. That's going to help Michigan. Michigan doesn't want to, they don't care about that right now. The Michigan attorney general isn't saying, hey, you should be paying these and promising these players up front. You should be allowed to, have your services and go anywhere if you're one of these players right now. Like, It's the whole thing, whether it's transformational, transactional, whether it's with the rules, whether it's against the rules, whether everybody's playing by the same rules, they're not. So it does need to be addressed. And I would just say the just appearance of the on how it's working for Michigan, NIL, running something on the website and talking about the student athletes. Your average Michigan fan doesn't know what his $100 will do if it's put into a collective, where it seems like Ohio State fans know that they're going to go hit the transfer portal or they're going to promise it to top stars. What do Michigan fans know? Well, we just like Michigan, so we're going to give them the collective, and we hope they know what they're doing with the money. That's the way it feels like it for me. So they need that, whether it's more transparency, whether it's a better game plan. And this will go to Ward Manuel. I'm going to point at the camera and going to tell Ward Manuel, everybody is coming after you, thinking you're dragging your feet and that you're not doing anything. Why don't you go on the offensive and try telling people what your position is and what Michigan's position is?
Well,
because you get trashed every day by your loyal fans saying that you're just sitting on your ass and you're not doing anything. And if you don't come out and defend yourself and say anything, how can I go and say, what? Lord Manuel's got his plan. I don't know what his plan is because he doesn't say anything about his plan.
Yeah, I get it. And I when Jim was asked those questions as he was out the door, he basically kind of sounded like, well, it is what it is. We got what we like. He was almost satisfied that he had enough, was kind of the way I thought he worded it. And when I guess I can't comment on some of these things until I start hearing our leader telling us, like Ryan Day did a couple of years ago, we need 13 million to keep our roster. So I don't know about some of those things, but let's just believe. I'm going to believe in the process because we've got 3 championships in a row, and I think we're going to give Sherrone Moore the same kind of support that Jim got. Let me just say this too, Denny, about some other things going on out there that I think are a hell of a lot more important than being an interim coach. I'm just going to keep it real with you. These decisions that Sherrone Moore is making now are really, really going to be so darn important to his test as a leader that he gets it right, hiring all these assistant coaches. Having a Rolodex, having the right fit, guys that can scheme, guys that can recruit, guys that fit into our culture, and he's just got to get it right, and it's so darn important. We lost Doug Mallory, guy played with just now to the Ravens, but Mike Mallory is there. He's got a Super Bowl ring I just had to pump my old teammate. He is there as an analyst. He's got a Super Bowl ring with the Saints. So you got a linebacker position. He was a great player, captain when I played. He's there. I'd like to think that his name is something that a guy that we're looking at. So that's it. I just throw that out that he's there, and Sherrone's decisions now are going to do more and he's making good ones offensively. And when this thing comes together on defense, he gets the right guys. That will really get Scar from the faith standpoint to the optimism standpoint.
Yeah, and I think people like me, screaming about NIL and going back and forth with the fans. It's not just the athletic director. You need the president involved in that situation. If he doesn't think the athletic director is doing the job, then he should get on that. And I would say the same thing for all of those regions. These guys all want to get elected. They all, think, political aspirations. All of like these guys need to get off their tail. And if they don't think that the AD is being proactive, then they need to step up. Now there's a bunch of different. It's not. I think it's easy. Ward Manuel is not doing anything. Well, get on the president, get on the regions too. And the person that can get all of that and galvanize it is Sherrone Moore. He needs to find new, creative, and he needs to find a way to get all that going. If it's true, and I don't know, like Harbaugh on his way, he was pretty good at playing both sides of the fences and, using his leverage. And he was pretty good at all of that, and a credit goes to, to him for doing that. And he was, in the end, maybe thinking that if he didn't get that NFL job and he was coming back to Michigan, he made it known that he needed everybody lining up, because if you want to stay at the top in college football, this wasn't any just like, let's sit back. You needed everybody firing and everybody on the same page and everybody attacking. It's like, some of that war stuff. You need everybody ready to go to battle. And, he kept harping on that. He was telling some of his people, that Harbaugh network, that, trusted agent, it's an allies. I mean, he was still, as he was trying to get that NFL job, he was working that college angle. So everybody does. And, if they want Sherrone Moore to succeed, it's not just the AD, it's the presidents in those regions, and they all need to get together, and they need to put that together.
Okay, so then you're basically taking the approach that all of a sudden what we've done for 3 years to win, what we've provided from an NIL standpoint, you don't think that's enough?
Yeah, not all of a sudden, Scar. It's because it's just the reality of how it worked, who they had on the roster, and how the game has evolved now. Like, you're not getting those same players. There was no Blake Corum. There's not going to be a Blake Corum to give money to. It was a nice idea of pay them off at the end and, give them, 3-4 times the money that you'd be giving them at the beginning. But, it was a nice problem to have because they won the national championship, but they've got to,
okay.
I don't know.
Danny, I guarantee you this,
but they need to look at a new approach with it.
I get you. I guarantee you this, guys on our roster right now, they're being offered a lot of money from other schools.
Well, should Michigan
be? Let me tell you a sign of.
Should they be countering those offers?
Well, I would hope. Come on, man. Let's have a little faith in the guy. But let's
have a little faith in what guy?
In our leader. Let's have faith in him that he's going to keep our guys. That he's going to find a way to keep
Manuel,
Sherrone Moore, and Manuel.
Sherrone Moore. Okay, the whole thing.
Let's have. And that's something that is giving me optimism. Now, I know that the timing of when Jim left and Sherrone Moore was hired helped lock those guys in at Michigan. School already started. So maybe that was thought out. But the timing of it locked them in. Now, we haven't had anybody of note who was planning on playing and actually being a contributor. Now, we lost Atterbury, but he wasn't playing.
No.
So if that's actually a sign of optimism. When we don't hear any names of players who are going to be in our top 44 next year that aren't leaving, that is a compliment to our leader. That is a compliment to Sherrone Moore, in my opinion. When guys start leaving, that is something to be concerned with, and then that is also, you need to point at the leader for that. They have for whatever reasons, but. Anyway, let's just have faith that he's going to keep them and that the money is going to be there.
Yeah, it's a great point. All right. Right now, they haven't lost anybody. And I'll tell you, if they go into spring ball and they're not losing any, and especially the big dogs that people keep talking about, if they're not losing Kenneth Grant or Mason Graham or Will Johnson, and they're bringing largely everybody. I would imagine that, I'm not trying to run anybody off, but I would think that there'd be one or two, but I don't know. If they don't lose anyone, then all of this yelling and screaming and what you're talking about, have some faith in them, I think is a great point. I really do. I wanted to say some. Go ahead. You got something else? I got some
other things that are, I just have a lot of faith in Sherrone, but let's wait. 3 years is when we're really going to get a good feel for where our program is under him. So that's my take on that. About 3 years. Let's see where we're at. The upside of Sherrone Moore being the coach? They're not going to be able to negative recruit that Jim Harbaugh is going to go leave next year to go coach in the NFL. I'm looking at the little things, the upside. They're not going to negative recruit about that. So that's something that is, that's a big thing.
I have to admit, for the people that are mad at Jim Harbaugh, and there are a few, and I'm not, and you say, why not? I would say because he won a national championship. That would be the biggest thing. That would be my reaction. I think about 2 years ago, and I remember like he almost left for the Vikings. However close he was, we know that he was with a meeting and he's out the door. It felt like for about 12 hours, maybe even 24, that he was gone. If he would have left then, he would have, he got Michigan they over the hump. They finally beat Ohio State. They beat Ohio State. The 21 game with the snowfall and everything, priceless. And then they validated it by going on and winning the Big Ten championship, getting to Indy, getting to the college football playoff. Wonderful. Would I have been mad at him if he would have gone to Minnesota then? Maybe a little bit. Like, okay, fine. This is it. I would have felt like this is the best that Michigan could do. Like they could hope to beat Ohio State and win the Big Ten and just really enjoy that Big Ten championship of 21 and hopefully that Michigan can put it together again. But he ran it back and got him back to the college football championship and beat Ohio State again and on the road and won another one. And then he did it again and then he won it all. That's why I can't be. I'm not saying I can't be. I understand that there are going to be people that are mad. I am not mad. That is why. That's why I'm not mad at Harbaugh, and I'm not mad at the assistants who are trying to win a national championship and a Super Bowl. I'm not mad.
Yeah. And let's not forget how Sherrone Moore ended up at Michigan. He met Jay Harbaugh at a some kind of assistant coach of the year function. And Jay met him and said, come back to Jim and said, this guy's a good dude, man. Take a look at this guy. Next thing you know, he's coaching at Michigan. Denny, I tried to think about how I would have felt when I was playing, if Bo would have left and Jerry Hanlon took over, or Bo would have left and McCartney or Moeller would have took over, and I would have been pretty darn confident in those three names when I was playing. I would have felt, let's go. Coaches leave, players leave. So I just had to throw that out. I talked to one of my former guys that I played. I coached him. He was a coach now also. He's got a lot of confidence in this Kasula guy. He really liked him. Everybody, I said it. I just want to say it again. So Sherrone is surrounding himself with a smart guy, good recruiter, guys that, and people get caught up on, where did he coach at a big school? Denny, sometimes those really smart guys, they come from a small place like Youngstown State, like Jim Tressel. So don't ever forget that.
Now you can get coaches, you can get players from anywhere. Right. Coaches and players, you can go anywhere. A couple on the feedback, Go Blue is not mad at Harbaugh. He has faith in Moore, but doesn't have faith in Ward Manuel. And he said Michigan needs to move on. That's probably where a lot of people, they feel the same way. And I'll just go back and state it again. You might be right on that. Maybe he can come out with some clarity about their position with NIL and how they plan on attacking it here in the offseason along with Sherrone Moore. If Santa Ono thinks that Ward's just sitting on his hands and not doing anything, well, then you should also have no faith in him, because if you have faith in the president, he's the one that can help things get going in that athletic director office. And it's the same thing with the regents. Keep including them and stay on them. So if you don't like Manuel, tell the coach to get on him, tell the president to get on him, and tell the regents to get on him.
Yeah, Danny and I covered this. We don't know what role, I covered it, the Ward Manuel, Partridge, Stapleton, regents. We don't know what role they played, why could possibly some of our coaches left. We don't know. It could be a small part. Are they leaving because they love Sherrone, but they look at that other guy around the corner? Do we have faith in him? So, Sherrone Moore, Denny, I've been a head coach. He's got to surround himself with, in a way, there's kind of some good things here too about some of these guys leaving, because he gets to hire the strength coach. That guy's loyal to him. Sherrone Moore reached out to Tress. You're my guy. He gave him that job. Hey, Grant, you are my offensive line coach. So he's going to hire the coordinator. Those guys are going to be loyal to him. There's an upside to that he has the ability. He's not inheriting nothing. And, we're not talking about Michael Hart. I don't know what's going on there, but we're all waiting to see what's going on there. So, and Denny, let's just say this, we panicked. People panicked. Jim had 4 D-line coaches in 9 years, 4 defensive coordinators in 9 years. I really like Sean Nua. I thought he was great. We won a championship with Sean Nua, and we're all, oh man, the world's over. And then next thing you know, bam, here comes Mike Elston, and we win 2 more championships. Trust me, there's a guy that can coach D-line out there. Sherrone's got to find him. He's got to find him. So
good point. Good point. 2 years ago, they lost.
The same thing when we lost Mike McDonald. Oh man, I was upset. And then when I heard that name Minter, I said, we ain't missing a beat because I know the Minter family. So Sherrone's, let's have faith, man. He's going to bring a smart guy in to run our system, and he will be able to connect that loyalty to him. He's the guy that hired him.
Yeah, they lost both coordinators 2 years ago. You go back, what was it? Josh Gaddis in 21 won the Broyles. He was gone. Matt Weiss, he got fired, or however, the FBI removed him. Sherrone Moore. I mean, they've had a different offensive coordinator for 4 years in a row. This thing about this is a message from Vic, who says Jim should have had the best contract in college football after the 2022 season. I'm sure you've been following it, Vic, but Harbaugh wasn't signing any contract. At first, there was always something like, well, the NCAA, the burgers, and, Michigan can't sign him because, he got suspended during the season. And then he was like, he was open. He wasn't open to signing a contract that had a prohibitive buyout at the end for the NFL. So, you can think whatever you want about that. You could say, it was Ward dragging his feet, didn't put it on the table. Michigan, I think Michigan tried to sign him at various junctures.
They tried when he was getting ready to get on the plane, Denny. They tried to give him the language. I don't want to keep beating it up. We disagree. They tried to give him the language he wanted when he was getting on the plane. And there's people there that I don't think he had a ton of faith in. For someone to offer what you want when you're getting ready to get on the plane, that tells you the kind of regents he was dealing with. But let's go on to
I would also tell you that, he had various times where like that contract was sitting there and supposedly he had everything that he wanted in there except that NFL buyout. So like he was playing he was playing both sides of the fence, and that's fine. He had the leverage to do that. There are people that buy that Michigan was dragging its feet, and there's others that, feel like, he was gone for sure to the NFL. I think he was playing both sides all along, and he was going to take the best deal that he could get. And I do think that he wanted to go to the NFL. And I do. When he came out there and said there's no Lombardi, I think ultimately that's what it was. And his legend was secure, even though I saw a Michigan State writer saying this is going to tarnish his legend by taking his assistants to the NFL. And I thought, well, Michigan State fans will like to read that. Michigan fans will look at it and say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, but that's it. That's the way it works. Go ahead, Scar. You got any final points?
No, I just think, don't worry. It's not so important that we've lost a few coaches that have advanced in their career, because that's what good businesses do. That's what good leaders do. They promote their people. You come work for Jim Harbaugh, it helps your career advancement. You go work for John Harbaugh, all 4 of his defensive guys got different jobs. You come work for Sherrone Moore, you're going to move up in the profession. Okay, you're going to be an analyst for him. Bam! Next thing you know, you're a position coach at some other school. You come be a position coach with him. Next thing you know, you're a coordinator somewhere. So if Sherrone Moore develops that kind of reputation that Jim has and that John has, then that's a great thing. So it's more important that Sherrone Moore hires the right coaches now than us worrying about guys that got promotions. That's Scar's big thought on that.
All right, my big thought is something that you said earlier. If Michigan's able to keep their players here and go into spring, I think a lot of this yelling and screaming about, this guy's leaving, and then I think people are going to feel a lot differently. And I think people feel like the players are just going to leave. They're expecting the players to leave. Let's wait and see.
We're not down there with those coaches. And, Danny, right now, though, what's going on is the players are just dealing with those 6'8" strength coaches. They don't even see the position coaches until spring football. They might see them maybe once or twice, have a meeting or something, but you don't see your coaches now. They are lifting, running, school,
School.
They are going to school. They're living like normal college kids a little bit because they don't have the huge 3-hour demand, 4-hour demand. They probably come down and work out for an hour, hour and a half, whatever. And, so they're not with the coaches. It's a whole different deal now. And they're focused.
It makes me laugh, Carl. You're right. I think they as much as they can be normal students, but now a normal college football player can go get in their $90,000 ride, and they can go over to the jeweler and grab a couple $100,000 worth of gems, and then they can start talking to people about, hey, you gonna give me $1 million to bowl? I don't know. It's a little different. Now.
Yeah, different world, man.
Different world.
I remember taking a couple of apples out of training table so I'd have a little breakfast the next day, man. They could have wrote me up for that.
It could have. NCAA violation. Scar dipping too deep into the training table.
But then listen, Denny, I'm going to leave you on my final thought. The optimism for Scar is good. I like what I'm seeing on offense. I don't see players leaving. I see the names I see for defensive coordinator in some of those positions are good. Losing coaches to get better jobs is no slap in the face to Michigan and Sherrone Moore. I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at.
Way to straighten everyone out. When you first came on, I didn't see that where it said national champs. I thought you were going to tell me that you've accepted a job with John Harbaugh to coach with the Ravens. That's what it looked like with your Ravens vest on with the black and blue, but it's maize and blue for Scar. How about that? Maize and blue.
That's
review.
it, Daddy. Go blue. It's all good.
There he is. Smash